having understood the basic thesis of Karl Marx, in the previous lecture we covered historical materialism. Now, guys, these questions will directly come in your examinations like what is the theory of economic determination or historical materialism according to Karl Marx. So, you just remember that what you will include here. Now, the beauty of Marx is that his concepts from one theory can be used in another theory and vice versa. So, now we'll go through his treatise on mode of production. Now, Marx conceptualized that society has six stages, out of which four are historical, while two are futuristics. Now, in the first stage, that was referred to as primitive communism, all were equal. It was a hunting gathering society. You can see it in a form of a tribal society. Population was low, food was abundant. Relations of productions were based upon cooperation. I mean, almost there was only one part of segregation, that was age as well as gender. But others, same type of people with the same social situations, they did same function. Division of labor was less. Okay, the society was run communally. Neolithic age, that was the age of the settlement, it produced the notion of private property. I mean, land came into being, and then command over the tools which transformed the land. These were the things which actually came into being after the phase of primitive communism, and now we'll just get over to the second phase, which is ancient slave mode of production. Now, here as you see, during the Neolithic period, men became settled. They began settled agriculture, living in a community. Now, in those communities, certain men were privileged to have the skills and tools that made others subordinate to them, other to depend upon them. And as the population increased, but such skills became scarce. So those who had those skills made others to work for them, and that is how agriculture and feudalism emerged. And slave system was a kind of what feudalism proposed to. uh, these were the people who worked on the farms, who worked for the welfare, who were in a bonded condition to the owners. Then the third stage is feudalistic mode of production. Now, in the feudalistic mode of production, land is the basic entity there. I mean, society was divided into land owning and landless, and this was the period of evolution of serfdom. Though serfs were different from slaves in the sense that they were free, but they worked on feudal farms and had to pay tax and service, which kept on rising. You can imagine this as the permanent settlement system. In the later stages, serfs revolted, soon capitalist mode of production emerged. So this was the period where the discontentment with this mode of production kept on rising, and that is how the people who were working as serfs, they went into a revolution, and finally it will extinguish with the coming up upon the capitalist mode of production. Now this is Marx referred to as the current stage. Now in this stage there are two classes, proletariat and bourgeoisie. Labor produces wealth, surplus of which is grabbed by the capitalist, while meager leaving the meager amount for the workers. Now the condition of workers becomes so poor with time that they even lose control over their free will and labor. They start feeling alienated from themselves, from fellow workers, from the work, and from even the things they produce. Now, finally, the end result of it is that exploited workers will unite and they will revolt against the capitalist class and their domination. And finally, in a transient period of socialism, they will just achieve the communism, where society will be run by the people, and the resources will be communally owned. Now, there is a concept of negation of negation. Now, Karl Marx referred to feudalism and capitalist mode of production as negation of negation. So now we come to the socialistic mode of production. Now Marx regarded socialist mode of production as a transitory phase. Proletariat topples bourgeoisie, then it begins controlling the forces of production. Now this can be seen that the now a new dictator has come into fora, that is the proletariat, and this phenomena is called reversal of control. The control of workers also to realize true potential. I mean, the main notion with which they revolted was they want to exercise their creativity. They want to realize their true potential as human beings. We will see the true representation of work when we go through the chapter on work and organization of work. Now, in the last stage, that is the futuristic stage, advanced communism, it is the final mode. It is the final mode. Now, forces of production are communally owned. Workers renounce rule, everyone carries creative pursuit. It is a classless society. Again, I am pointing classless society. There is no state. There is no state. Person's true self reintegrate, no equal relations of production. Collective production will remain, ownership collective, dialectic principle will cease its operation. Now, what are the criticisms? Now, already I told you that futuristic communist model never came into being, and even the Russian system fell, and communism thus took a background. Now, there is another mode of production, Asiatic mode of production. It was referred here in this theory of historical materialism. Asiatic mode of production describes the widespread pre-capitalist mode of production. You can say that it is not feudalistic. It is not feudalistic. It is not based upon the serfs, but it is not also capitalistic. So there is a midway. So this is a pre-capitalist mode of production. In this, irrigation system of agriculture was important. It played an important role. Oriental despotism is considered to arise out of this mode of production. The Asiatic mode of production can be found all around the world, not just in Asia, as the term indicates, but it mainly emerged in Asia region, but later flourished rest of the world. Now, this is different from what the six-stage evolutionary model Marx proposed. Therefore, Asiatic model of production can be used as a criticism of Marxian theory. Now, already this point is whenever you criticize him, economic determinism, reductionist tendency, you will always have to. Then feministic, I have told you, I taught you the feministic ideology. If not, you just go through the playlist. You will find the lectures related to feminism. So you can include their angles here. Now, uh, now we go on. What is his viewpoint upon the individual? See, Karl Marx sees man as a perpetually dissatisfied being. He says that man is driven by the structure of society and it is subordinate to it. Individual consciousness is faced by economy, that is the production process, the forces of production. And he always sees his position in relative to it. Now, idea of being. There are two essential aspects of human nature. One is the constant part and other is the dynamic part. Constant part is being. It is perpetually dissatisfied and creative, which if curbed by society, he feels alienated. Now, when he feels such, now other part is dynamic. It is governed by a person's social position, the social being. So constant part is continuously dissatisfied and other part is dynamic, which is being a social being. In existing societies, man is identified by his social being and not by his being. Therefore, individual consciousness is determined by his social being than his being. Basic nature of social being changes in different societies. In capitalist society, social being is selfish. In communist, it became cooperative. So therefore, it is Karl Marx is basing his thesis upon the viewpoint that based upon the nature of the society, the individual will change. Individual has two kind of personalities. One is the constant part, one is the dynamic part. So the dynamic part plays a major role here, which is run by the society itself. So now after having understood his theory of production, mode of production, we'll go through the alienation. Now what is alienation? Now he says that there is an inherent relationship between labor and human nature, which is perverted in a capitalist mode of production. This perversion is called alienation. Now this you can see in his work Economic and Political Manuscripts 1844. I again repeat, Economic and Political Manuscripts 1844. Here concept of alienation occupies central role in Marxian understanding of capitalism. Separation occurs in multiple dimensions. Situation of powerlessness, isolation and meaninglessness faced by the people when they confront social institutions which they cannot control. There is thus breakdown of natural interconnection between people and what they produce. See, this is an important point here. Primary importance is given to the alienation as it influences economic infrastructure. Cause of the alienation lies in the uneven structure of production itself, that is the capitalism itself. How does labor changes its form and what is its impact? Labor in capitalism is no longer seen in serving the purpose of human existence, which is the to view human being. The inherent nature of human being is creative. He uses work to define him, to define himself. It is the creative utilization of his energy. Now, labor is turned from an expression of human abilities to being a means to the end. And the end, that to the end, not for himself but for the capitalist to gain more money for them. Labor no longer transforms the workers, they get alienated on it. They don't feel, they don't feel it, so they don't feel the pleasure of working or their own approach. Now, human being loses the touch of his own creativity. This endangered the very existence of social being. So what is the dual aspect of history of humankind? It is the increasing control over the nature at the same time, and this has resulted into alienation, increased alienation of the people. So how does alienation happens? It happens in two ways. In a given mode of production, it increases with time as material forces become stronger. So it is in fact that we are gaining more and more control over the nature by advancement of industries or the factors of production, and its degree increases as the mode of production itself changes. That I mean, in a given mode of production, the advancement in technology occurs, and as a mode of production also progresses. So mode of production is advancing, and within a single mode of production also efficiency is increasing. There is an important concept of fetishism. Now, Marx explains alienation in capitalist mode of production in chapter Fetishism of Commodities in Das Kapital 1867. So, now we have two books to be remembered. One is the Economic and Political Manuscripts 1844, and another is Das Kapital. So, in this book, Fetishism of Commodities is mentioned. So, what is it? It is workers purchase commodities, they produce commodities, and they again purchase it. Therefore, commodities assume importance and a kind of an dissociated existence from the worker. Labor of worker depends becomes dependent upon the production of commodities. During recession, when there is lack of demand, even the workers start losing their jobs, and there is an even more reduction in demand because nobody has the money to buy these commodities. This is what was happened during Great Depression. Care will not go into that. Now, commodities are being seen that as if they have inherent importance in that. This concept is very important because now you see that the workers have associated certain inherent value with the commodities they are producing, and they are behaving like as if the commodities itself have got some value which is separate from their work. So therefore more importance is given to the relation between man and things, and labor of men thus in this process become commodified. Now look at this diagram. So in this figure you will see that the major concept is exchange value. Exchange value, that is the marketplace value of an object, the perceived value. It is greater than the use value. Now earlier you saw that during primitive communism it was the use value which was more important. Like the tribe, they were why they were fishing, because it was granting them the food to eat. So that was the use value. But now the exchange value of the item is greater than its use value. Now this leads to conspicuous consumption. I mean, they people begin spending money on the things which they don't actually need. Like even the 100 rupees watch will tell the same time which a lakh rupee watch will, but people still opt for, like, as if the lakh rupee watch has a more value. Now I have also added this another figure. You can see the brand names. Now it might happen that the life cycle of a normal short and the Adidas short is same, but still people will prefer an Adidas short. So this is what is already what I have told you, the commodity fetishism and its concept. You can read it, you can just go through it. So I have included certain examples like the shoes, the shoes, and then I have also added highlighted that what is the social structure of modern capitalist society and how it is varying. The commodity fetishism is varying this exchange, and the how what is its relation to human labor and capital. So you just pause the video and go through this is just the repetition of facts, but in this you will just gain certain insights on how to write a paragraph if you want to. Now, what are the four dimensions of alienation which lead to inversion of subject object relationship? We see that worker is alienated from the process of production itself. I mean, it is fixed and worker can't change it. They will have to work utilizing it. They will also be alienated from the product they produce, from fellow workers, even from themselves, because they are not able to exercise their true potential. Now again, criticism, you will see that even in almost all the theories, the similar type of people have criticized it, and you can quote one thinkers into another. So I'll just tell you like which to quote. Now in Karl Popper, we already saw he called it economical determinism. Now here he referred to it alienation as a ground for breeding of captivity. Alienation sometimes itself leads to creativity. Now, R.K. Merton, we have gone through him in uh, functionalism. Now, R.K. Merton says that people may feel alienated and rebel. Okay, he gave a strain theory. Okay, so you can go through that. You will feel more comfortable then. Now, Durkheim, he says that condition can be rectified within the existing structure too. There is no need of revolution. He, in his theory, referred to a pathological state. Okay, so in that pathological state, one of the factor was that after this state is reached, then society should accustom the concerns of everybody. Now, Galthorpe and Lockwood, this is in the affluent worker study. They say that now workers have better condition of living. I mean, there was in the area where they went for the study, they saw that by protesting and by raising their concerns, workers highlighted their plight and in a way got some rights. Now we see the CW Mills white collar. This is also important. This class to feel alienated as it has to work with fake attributes. I mean, the white collar class is not working as per their wish, as per their talent, as per the way in which they want to work. They are just working with the fake attributes. Then Robert Bloomer in Alienation and Freedom 1964 says that alienation depends upon technology. Alienation depends upon technology which is used at work. Degree of alienation differs in different industries. There are four dimensions of alienation. And he also told that there is less alienation in handicrafts industries. So Robert Bloomer, alienation and freedom, alienation depends upon technology. So he gave four dimensions of alienation. Now, how much workers are involved in work, how much they are integrated into their work, and what is the meaning and sense of purpose they find in their work. What is the degree of control they have over their work. Now, Max Weber refers to bureaucratization and over what you say that if the ideal type of bureaucracy feels more inclined to follow rigid procedures, rules, and regulations, then it impacts the creativity as man is more bound by these rules, and therefore a kind of alienation feeling of alienation depends. Melvin Simmons gave five elements. These are not very important. Just know that Melvin Simmons he gave five elements of estrangement, in which some of the elements are estrangement, then self-aggrandizement, isolation, and these are, you can just go through them. Not very important for the exam. Now the major concept which is very important to for us to know is class struggle. His idea about class struggle. Now in the theory of class struggle, he says that now there are various factors in which the society is stratified. Class is one of those factors. Now, class is a fundamental unit of organization. Society is always divided into opposite classes in a dialectic relationship. Man is born into his class. Marx uses class as a central concept to understand society as a whole. In Das Kapital 1867, he writes, class as a group of persons sharing the same position in the process of production. So here production is occurring, there is a appropriate division of labor. Now that division of labor, the workers doing the same work in a specific strata, they belong to the same class. But why does he refers to only two classes? Now when you just you have gone through what the definition I told you, that what is class, you would feel that there are not only two classes. Yes, Marx also talks about intermediate classes. Now, in his work Revolutions and Counter Revolutions in Germany, he talks about eight classes. And in the struggle in France, he talks about the six classes. So, he's not saying that there are only two classes, but as the history proceeds, all these classes will be absorbed into two broad classes via two processes. Now, these processes are bourgeoisement and proletarianism. These are the two processes by which only two broad classes will be remaining. Now, what are the two processes by which class polarization occur? It occurs by way of bourgeoisement and proletarianism. Now, what do you mean by bourgeoisment? So, it is a process by which, for example, there are different 8 to 10 classes within a simple spectrum. So here you can see in this right class mech there is a bourgeois and a proletariat. Now in between bourgeois and proletariat there are a lot of different classes also, like managers, small employers, petty bourgeois and semi-autonomous. So with time, if the managers get into the class of bourgeois, then we'll say that this process is bourgeoisment. Now small employers, even semi-autonomous workers by way of mobility can lead this, can travel to or can just mobilize themselves, and just like social mobility into the class of bourgeois will be caused. And in a similar way, the managers or the semi-autonomous worker petty bourgeois can themselves degrade to the level of proletariat. It will depend upon their social circumstances and the decisions which they take. So now we'll understand some mature conditions. Now, what are the mature conditions? It is a critical mass of workers having consciousness, network of communication among the workers that yes, they are ready, clear perception of a common enemy, which is capitalism or the mode of production, current mode of production. Then they will need an appropriate organization, then ideology generated by leadership. So there is also a concept of class in itself and class for itself. So it a class in itself will simply means a social group whose members share the same relationship to the mode of production. Karl Marx argued that a social group only fully becomes a class when it becomes a class for itself. At this stage, its members have class consciousness. So class for itself stands for when its members have class consciousness and class solidarity. Class consciousness means they false that the class consciousness has been replaced by fully awareness of their true situation, by the realization of the nature of exploitations. Member of a class then develop a common identity, recognize their shared interest and unite, so creating class solidarity. The final stage of class consciousness and class solidarity is reached when members realize that only by collective struggle they can overthrow the ruling class and take positive steps to do so. According to Karl Marx, the aspects of capitalist society would eventually lead to proletariat class developing into a class for itself. Now this is again the concept in the infograph. Now here 6 stages I have just summarized, you can go through it, I have already explained you. So what are the criticisms of class struggle? So first of all is that futuristic conception never came into being. Frank Parkin says that class exists even in socialist countries. Like he was just referring to the current socialist countries, and some workers have become more affluent. Then Weber says that there are other bases of stratification in society apart from economic base. Now Lansky says that breakdown of capitalism may not lead to socialism, as there might be some another modes of production. We just have seen Asiatic modes of production. Dahrendorf, then menial working class has become more stratified and heterogeneous. He says that even among the workers, the strata has become more stratified. It has given rise to different classes and different groups. Ralph Dahrendorf says that modern capitalism has modified itself. The context of Marxist ideas have changed themselves. Then capitalism sows seeds for its own destruction, according to the Marx. So these were the whole concept. Usually you can just go through this infogram, pause the video, see this infograph. It contains all the concept I have just mentioned. So the beauty of Marxist concept is this, that one theory can be used in another, one criticism can be used in another. You will have to have a basic knowledge of Marx. Now will if you want this video, see this is a booklet in which I have almost around 800 pages. You can see, if you want this you can just message me below in the comment section below. And so guys, this completes our unit 4. We'll again meet for the unit 6 to 10. Unit 1 to 5 are complete.